Hey folks, this is an important thing for Shadow Empire and I wanted to talk about it. The developer, Vic Rikers, has just put out a roadmap for Shadow Empire's development. It's a long-term sketch, as he's called it. Very, very important. He's made a disclaimer, okay, and he said this is a plan, not a promise. And it's also dependent on, the game making continued commercial sense. So I think it's his intentions, okay, but it's not a promise. So before we talk about what's going on here, it's really important that you know that this is not promising any of these features, okay. But I think he said in the on his blog that there's, this is like 50%, something like this. In fact, let's just have a quick look what the blog said. I'm going to read this out because I think it's important. Hi folks, mid-April I did a poll and said I would share an outline of my Shadow Empire development plans with you in a few weeks. Well, that took me a bit longer due to various reasons, but here we are. First of all, I would like to thank you for your participation in the last poll and your discussions on the various forums, Steam, Matrix, Discord. I've had time to evaluate and organise your wishes, as well as my own. I could be secretive and only announce things when I am 100% sure, but that would keep everybody in the dark completely. So please do consider this development plan sketch like at best 50% sure. Okay, so that's really important. He also said, heck, the features still could change, the order of development and the DLC's planned could change, even the actual DLC themes could still change. Feedback is coming in non-stop, and I'm flexible until committed. But leaving all these disclaimers aside, this sketch does give you an insight into what I currently have on my drawing board. Okay, what we're going to do, I'm going to read through this, and I'm going to make a few comments based on, my kind of understanding of the game. I'll try to keep the length of the video down, so it's not just me rambling. All right. So, we've had the Oceania DLC. I think the Oceania DLC is a really, really good DLC, and I'm just going to very quickly explain what I think that this added. It added ocean planets, and it added a new way of playing the game with this maritime trading house thing, which really drastically changes the game. It not forces the player, but it kind of strongly directs the player towards playing in a more economic way and focusing on industrial development and economy. This is an amazing DLC because it actually unveils or peels back the layers of the onion on a lot of the game mechanics that players very likely, more casual players perhaps, would have sort of skimmed over and left to the AI just to kind of do. So stuff like, the management of the private economy in conjunction with the public economy and how that works. In Oceania, you really need to get lots of cash in order to be able to play the maritime trading house game. At least to be able to play it well, and that really it makes drastic changes to the way that you play the game. The other thing is, of course, is the logistical considerations of expanding your empire over multiple continents. So you have to have more SHQs now. You have to consider the maritime trading house economy and the way that they, you have to use them for transport contracts and recon, for exploration. It's just an interesting DLC. It's fair to say that it was also quite a contentious DLC, and some people didn't like it because it didn't include player controllable naval units. Now, I just didn't care about that particularly. I'd like to see naval units, but I want them done in a way that isn't just the normal, counters, bumping counters. That just doesn't make sense in a turn-based game, in my opinion. All the best naval games are always real time. So you've got to kind of consider. Well, okay, maybe apart from Gary Grigsby's War in the Pacific, there are a few games that do turn-based naval combat really well, but they're super complex. Okay, so yeah, that's what I think about Oceania. I think it was a misunderstood DLC. I don't think it was, I think people thought that they were getting naval units, even though the Matrix and Vic repeatedly told them that wasn't going on. And there was, some people didn't like it. All right. Okay, so that just lays the groundwork. Oceania is a good DLC. But it didn't satisfy everybody. Currently, Vic has been working mostly in the beta patches to kind of upgrade a whole bunch of things in the game, and recent patches have added a lot of AI work, okay? So the way that the AI uses aircraft, the way that the AI prioritizes certain types of industries, the way that the AI engages in warfare. I think, if I'm reading between the lines of some of the things that he was putting in the beta patches, there was stuff to do with making the AI kind of more aggressive, just more effective in combat, essentially. But mostly based around its priorities for building certain types of units and, certain kinds of economy buildings. All right, so that's where we seem to be at the moment. It's mostly kind of AI stuff. Let's read from what he's talking about now with this core engine work phase, which is 1.2x, okay, which is what we're in now. New leader portraits, okay, and new vidcom and stratagem illustrations. I'm kind of sad to see this because I think that Shadow Empire, it's got a kind of goofy charm, and I deliberately don't mod any of this stuff out because I like it. I think it's just, I kind of like it. I don't know if it's Stockholm syndrome, because some of this. Look, I don't want to be insulting to whoever made made those illustrations, but they're kind of weird. They're sort of odd, and I think changing this, even though I don't care about it, I'd rather we'd spent development time doing something more, game mechanics wise. But I do think this would give the game more mass appeal, okay? And I think some people might bounce off the way that the game looks a little bit. So yeah, this is probably a good thing for the game. But I'm tempted to, I don't really mind. I like the leader portraits and their silly names. I just think it's great. All right. He's also talking about an overhaul of the model designing interface. This is already happening, I think, because we've already had this aircraft design system, which is the blueprint system. Well, actually that works for all of the model design, but I think he's talking about perhaps this means that he's giving the whole report based model design system and an overhaul. I don't mind the way that it works right now, I'll be honest with you, but I'm just used to it. And again, so I have to approach this as somebody who has been playing the game for thousands of hours. I've got probably 2,000 hours or more in this game now, maybe even more than that. It's probably one of my most played games. So I have to kind of try to look at it with new eyes, and I think, again, this will be good for people. A statistics tab. I've been asking for this for ages, right? So the existing statistics, let's have a look at it in Shadow Empire. We're just going to jump in. This is my current Let's Play. The statistics tab is basic, right? And it's fine when you've got a small empire like mine at the moment, where we've only got 4 zones or something. But once you start getting, I mean, if I was to load up my 3 skills Let's Play, if you clicked on the regime stats and you had, I mean, look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got 9 zones here, and this is fine. You can kind of see what's going on. You can't scale it. You can't take away. Oh, you can. When did he add this? Good Lord, Vic. This crept in under the radar, right? Okay, well, this is already fixed, right? My main problem with this, which was that you weren't able to, individually select. All right, okay. So the way this is working at the moment, you can only select one. Look. So I'd like to see, being able to, shift click and select 2 or 3, or or just click 1 to get rid of it. That's the usual way of doing this. Is you click ring range, for example, and then it would exclude ring range, and then you click port royale and it exclude port royale. However, this is loads better. Okay, so Vic's already made me happy today. Apart from the great news of this roadmap, but yes, this statistics is really, really helpful, but it needs work. Okay, I think if you really put in a really nice user interface for being able to manage all this stuff, it is super useful. For example, anybody who's watching my Let's Plays will see that I've really started looking at this capital prices index a lot, because in Oceania, man, you need to sell stuff and you need to kind of pick the right times to sell things. And this is kind of what I was saying, that Oceania really kind of guides the player into, kind of forces them really to really look at the economic side of the things. Okay, let's get back to where we were. So out of the statistics tab, we've also got unaligned versus alien critters. I think at the moment the way the game handles this, and I've seen some complaints about it, is that the marauders and the aliens, the alien critters and the sea creatures, the multi-crabs, and all those things, they don't really fight one another. They kind of seem to cooperate a little bit, and that's kind of jarring for the player. So I think this is, I don't know what he's planning here, but that would be nice if that they did have some kind of conflict. They weren't just sort of working in tandem, to cut off the player's supply lines and take his areas off him, take his territory. That would be good. Okay, prioritize discovery. This is already in the game. So this is basically what this is it's in the beta at least, and so at the moment I don't think we can see it, because I don't think I can see it in this game. I'd have to start a new one. But what it means is there's a new tab. There's a new option when you come to research stuff, which will say I want to focus on a particular tier. I think that's how it works. I think I'm going to focus on engineering. I'm going to focus on advanced engineering, but you get a 66% penalty to your bureaucratic points because you're kind of, you're restricting the creativity of all your. I think it's for discovery as well, not just. I think it's for discovery. So yeah, prioritize discovery. So that noob error that I used to talk about, which I made in this game by the way, where you're in the tech tree, right, and let's say that you haven't got solar energy. This is the classic one, right? You haven't got solar energy or power plant, and then you go for, I don't know, let's say because you're fighting slavers, so you go for automatic rifle, high velocity guns, and padded enviro suit, which will be a good pick, right? Those three will then end up opening up engineering and chemistry, and all of a sudden you've diluted now the possible number of picks that you've got for this combinatrix thing, where the discovery pool is flooded with more tech. So where you had maybe 5 10 11 or 10 to pick between, now suddenly you've got like, I don't know, nearly 30. So it's a problem, right? And I think that this design, this thing that he's added here, or he's working on adding, is very, very welcome, because it's going to be more forgiving for newcomers, if they're able to have some way of focusing their research. But this is a great idea, by the way, to give it a big penalty, because it means that you still have to think now. You can't just automatically, now I'm going to research that, now I'm going to research that. No, you can't. You're going to get a big bureaucratic point penalty. So it doesn't mean that you can direct everything, min-max it. I think it's a great idea, the way he's implemented it already. Okay, next up is more planet-specific rules like salt water and weather, and more hostile for farming. This is all stuff that I love. At the moment, things like water, like salt water, for example, being able to get water in Shadow Empire is way too easy. Water really, even on Seth planets, just never a problem. It can be a problem at the start of the game for the first sort of dozen turns, and then then usually you've got a glacier, that you've got, and then that glacier will basically give you access to food, to water, and then you'll find more. I've never ever had a problem with water, and I think on like a dune-like planet, on the Seth planets, having water as a constant issue is, should be a thing, especially if you're not able to get wind traps up. So you've got wind traps as something that you can build, right? Where is it? No, it's not energy. Mining. So yeah, when you've got mountains, right, you can put wind traps and they will give you a little bit of water. But I've never ever built these, not once. Now, I'm not saying that other people haven't, because this game is so damn big. Even in 2,000, 3,000 hours that I've played it, it's likely that I've missed loads of stuff, because Shadow Empire is huge, and that's why I'm very reluctant to criticize it unless I've really thoroughly tested a specific thing. So yeah, stuff like that. Weather, more hostile farming. I love this idea. This is great. This is going to improve the game no end. Early and small economy fine-tuning. Better to play at tech level 3 and low population zones. So anybody who watched that series that I did on the Ice Planet, which I've not quite finished yet, but where I was playing with an outpost setting in the history class, it's so hard to get your economy going when you've only got a small amount of population. It's really, really difficult. The other thing is, of course, is that the tier 3 techs. So I think this is this one. Maybe it's these ones. But anyway, I think some balancing needs... Not balancing, that's not the right word. We don't need balance in Shadow Empire. Maybe the multiplayer people want, but I don't. I don't want it to be balanced. What I want is certain things just to make a little bit more sense. And, for example, wind traps. You start off with that. So I think that, again, it contributes to this whole thing of water just being too easy to get, perhaps. So, things like ice mining. Ice mining should be difficult to do. Like, that should be something that comes later in the tree, in my opinion. And maybe there's other ways of getting water. So, yeah, look, there's loads of stuff that can be done there. I don't know what it is that Vic's planning, but I don't really... Like, I've seen people in the community saying they never ever play on tech level 3, which is that I always start at tech level 3. I never start at tech level 4. That's just boring to me. I want to start from the start. And obviously, other people don't agree, which is fine. So, yeah, he's going to be improving the game for those people, I think. Snowballing and balancing. So, in brackets, he's put population, industrial points, metal, bureaucratic points, artifacts, private stratagems, faction stratagems, tech development speed at high bureaucratic points. All right, so this looks like he's just trying to affect the power curve of the player's development throughout the game, and also, I guess, the AI. Snowballing is a bit of a problem in 4X in general. It also is... I haven't noticed it so much in Shadow Empire, and the reason being is because there's always something to do in Shadow Empire, so I don't get late game drag in this game at all. Excuse me. I don't really see the problem with late game drag so much in 4X as other people do anyway. Good 4X games have ways of mitigating it. I think this game mitigates it by having always something fun to do, whether it's the economy, whether it's, you know, tinkering with your military formations, whatever it is. So even when you are winning, there are still things coming up that you need to deal with, and it's fun. Okay, Master of Orion dealt with it in a very famous way by just having one victory, kind of essentially one victory condition, where everything was tied around this one victory condition. And that's, as soon as you started snowballing, that was it. The game kind of ended anyway, for the most part. So yeah, so I don't see this being so much of an issue. However, obviously other people do. Optional easy mid-core logistics rules that are usable by the AI as well. I got mixed feelings on this. I don't think that the logistics in Shadow Empire is difficult. But the problem is the way that it's presented. So, and the fact you've got two different systems now. You've got pull and you've got push. And the pull and push systems don't really play nicely with each other unless you really know the algorithms, and we don't know the algorithms because Vic's never released them, so we don't know how it works. So I've never been able to figure this out, like, you know, accurately. And even me, I'm a veteran of this game. If I'm without blowing my own trumpet, I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I'm a veteran. I've been playing before release. I've got thousands of hours, and I still get bitten in the ass by the logistics. And it's always because because pull doesn't always work. So sometimes you'll have, like, let's just say, you've got like this turn I might have had 300 logistics going down this way, spare logistics, unused, and yet over here I've got starving troops, and there is no logistical reason for that. It's just completely incomprehensible why that's happening. And Vic's able to, there's been times when he's been able to kind of look at it and go, okay, here's what the issue is, but I've still never been able, I can't figure it out. Like, I can't figure out why it does that. It doesn't there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason for it. Now, maybe I'm just not smart enough to play this game, and I'm going to concede, I'm not stupid, but maybe it's just me, maybe it just goes over my head, or it's some autistic thing and I just can't see it. But I do think that I'm not interested in an optional easy logistics rule personally. I don't think the game needs it. I think all it needs is the system streamlining so that it's exactly the same as it is now, but we either have one system or the other. I didn't really ever see the need for pull anyway, to be honest. But a lot of people found it micromanagement. It isn't that's the wrong word. A lot of people did not like having to, play with traffic lights. They didn't like that, and that's fine. If you didn't enjoy that, he's added the pull system for you. That's great. The problem is pull doesn't always work, and it sometimes just has problems. So anyway, I'm not going to belabor that point. I've talked about this at great length before. So that's He's also saying the logistics rules that are usable by the AI as well. So this is also going to address there's a small element of the community that really don't like the fact that the AI plays with different rules, slightly different rules. And in answer to that, I'm saying, sorry, mum, that's just pretty much every video game ever. There's very, very few games where the AI plays by exactly the same rules. However, there are some people who really don't like that. So I think that might help to address those people who don't like the feeling that the AI is playing a slightly different game. AI rework. He's already started on this, so I believe that we're starting to see this in the beta patches now. I'm not going to talk about that too much. I don't really know a whole lot about it. But the way that the AI is using air now is much better. Apparently, I've not had a chance to test it out myself, but I've been talking to people in the community who say that this is a lot better already. All right. Gosh, oh man, time really flies when you're recording videos. I'm 20 minutes in nearly already, so I'm going to try to go through this a bit quicker, folks. QA pass on AI economy and counter pushing. Yeah, so this is just more AI stuff for the way that it builds its empires and fights, basically. So that is important. I think this stuff, by the way, is more important than anything else, in all honesty. The game as itself is complete, okay, in my opinion. Daz Tactic doesn't agree. We had a bit of a discussion about this the other day, but he thinks the game is, needs a lot of work. I think that it's pretty much complete. Anything else he adds now is just bonus. But this is really important to get the AI working, because if he can get the AI working really well to the point that it's super challenging and it plays it plays really, really tightly, I think that I'd be happy. I wouldn't need anything else. But I'll still buy the DLCs, don't get me wrong. Okay, we're into the new stuff. Work named Republica DLC. So, advanced trade. My plan is to include mercenaries, artifacts, and luxury special products. I'd like procedural creation and the inclusion of trade bosses to play a big role. I'm all for this. I think that the economic side of the game is already really interesting, but expanding it out to give the player more options and, you know, more fine control and more stuff that they can do, I'm all for it, providing that it is tightly balanced with the rest of the game. Advanced politics. My plan is to partially inspire myself on the ancient and Machiavellian theory of anacyclosis, as well as some 20th century political extremes, and maybe even the RPG game Paranoia. I don't know that game, but I think that this is great. Again, more politics. This is stuff that was really well... this was requested. A lot of people voted for this in the polls, along with the trade as well. So I'm all for this. I think I put a vote down for this one as well. So advanced politics sounds great to me. Anything that, you know, brings more immersion into the political side of the game, the better. Excuse me, folks. I got a bit of a frog in my throat today. Adventuring and Lieutenant's Oathsman. My plan is to allow a new category of leaders that have a direct personal loyalty to the player, like for example Thufir or Gurney in the Dune universe. Shadow might finally be fleshed out too. I'm not sure what this means, but I guess it's going to be you know, maybe like questing, and also to have kind of characters that stay with you throughout your playthrough that are, you know, that are directly tied to you. You know, so Thufir Hawat was the Mentat in Dune, and Gurney, what was he? I can't remember his name now. He was the... which one was Gurney? Was he the combat master who got resurrected as the Goaler? I can't remember now. Anyway, it's been a while since I've read Dune. But yeah, that sounds awesome to me. So I don't know what he's planning with that. Again, anything else that adds more 4X stuff and RPG stuff to the game is... because I think he's got the military stuff, apart from, you know, the AI, like, you know, some issues with the AI and perhaps some snowballing stuff. He has pretty much got the military side sorted. So I'd like more 4X stuff now. Newspapers, or a similar mechanic through private vidcom news that helps communicate stuff that's currently a bit hidden or even in a black box, for information as well as for immersion thematic purposes. There's a game that already does this, and this is a mod for UFO called X-Pirates, okay? So X-Pirates has this kind of series of, you know, kind of news flash kind of technology things that pop, you know, like text screens that pop up throughout gameplay that give you hints onto how to play the game, and that game really needs it. It's like Shadow Empire. It's not quite as complex, but it's got way more content. I mean, it's up there with Dominions and kind of NetHack now for having the amount of content, and that does that perfectly. It's funny, it comes up, it'll pop up these screens and it'll be like telling, you know, like the it will give you some clues in the game, but they're told in the style of the Russian bad advice poems. And if you don't know what that is, by the way, Google it, because it's brilliant. It's just, obviously people in the West probably haven't heard of it, but the Russian bad advice poem books are just absolute genius. You know, and yeah, so it kind of comes up like that. But anyway, I like this idea. Anything that shines some light into the more obscure game mechanics and helps people learn the game better, I'm all for it. New game modes. For the sake of replayability and new experiences, I would like to allow for some different victory conditions in game world setups. Again, expanding out the 4X side of the game is good. I would always hazard a little bit of caution here that the more victory conditions you put into a game, the more difficult it is for the AI to be able to play, all right? But I trust Vic. I think he's a good game developer. He's a genius, you know, with regards to how he can just get all these things to work. But the fact that Shadow Empire, which should be a mess of a game, by the way, the fact that it even works is just absolutely amazing. And it's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good, right? So I'm confident that Vic can come up with some ways of, you know, maybe giving different victory. I don't care about different victory conditions, I got to be honest. But if you can bring them in and tie them into, you know, this new trading, the advanced politics, the adventuring stuff, hey, why not? That sounds like, you know, more options the better. As long as there's, you know, they're options. Like if I can turn them off because they, you know, they don't work for me, then that would be great. That's all I'd say. It'd be great if you know, if they were options rather than, you know, I find that 4X games, you know, the more victory conditions they have, unless they're Civ, they don't generally work. And game world setup, that's, you know, more setup options is always going to be increased replayability. Okay, then we've got core engine work 1.3x. That's going to be, you know, balancing and bug fixing and, yeah, just more stuff. He's not given any details on these. Following this, he's got another DLC plan. The working name is Militaria DLC. Naval units that work seamlessly with the MTH system. So all of you guys who complained about the fact that there was no controllable naval units in the game, there's at least a plan, and he said, you know, this is a plan, not a promise. Okay, I think he's going to put this in probably because I think that this really hurt the sales of Oceania that this wasn't in. So, you know, I think that I'm guessing that's just Ben's guess, but there were some quite high profile negative reviews just whinging that basically that they didn't have controllable naval units, missing the whole point of the DLC. And I do think that influenced people to kind of stay away, which is a real shame because they missed out on a great DLC. However, it looks like he's planning, at least, you know, it's a plan. He's planning on putting this in. He said it also could be part of an Oceania update to be decided. I think that would be wise, personally speaking. I think that would be wise because I think that would make people feel... I don't know, it's hard to say because obviously the people who bought Oceania with less content then might feel a little bit ripped off. I just don't think that there's that many. I think that the amount of people who bought Oceania, who are also going to be upset by that is probably quite low. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. But it makes sense to me that he would add it as part of this update and just update the DLC. But I don't know, that's up to Vic. Unique militaries. I want to have a system that allows each regime to create its own unique military look and feel with unique strengths and weaknesses, partly mechanics, partly aesthetics, regalia, non-clementure and uniforms customizability. This is music to my ears, right? I want to see this. Providing that the mechanical side of it is still, you know, it doesn't kind of bloat the game out with regards to complexity. I mean, look, we play this game because it's complex, right? But what I mean by that is, you know, can the AI play it? If we start getting asymmetric factions, you know, is it going to be balanced for single player or for multiplayer? Because I don't care about multiplayer balance, I got to be honest with you, but single player balance in the sense of, you know, making stuff that isn't broken is important. So, but I like any more options that will allow the player to really immerse themselves. I think immersion is this game's strongest point. It's its strongest point. There's very few games that immerse as well as this. I mean, Stellaris is probably one, but I think this is even better, personally speaking. Anyway, so yeah, this sounds like a great idea. Just more customization for militaries. It'll give you more replayability for different playthroughs. Having the AI come up against different types of AI, even more types, that's going to be great. More military rules. Thinking in the direction of fleshing out the following topics: recon, anti-recon, guerrilla warfare, special branches, prisoner of wars, etc. Right. Again, this is something that I've been asking for. I think that the way that recon works now is better with the recent beta patches, where I hated it that the spies, like three spies over a 10,000 kilometer regime could see all your military units. It's just stupid. That's just ridiculous. Like, I understand, you know, getting a spy into the enemy's military and then, you know, saying where military formations is, but I even within that, you wouldn't be able to see direct, you know, in 200 kilometer hexes where units were. I just didn't like it. He's kind of fixed that a little bit now, so it's much like spies just have much less effect on recon, if I'm reading it right. But I want it so that, you know, recon is an active thing, not just with aircraft. I think recon should be active, an active ability. So I want to recon into this hex and then you use some action points to do so, you know. Now, does that make the game more bloated? It might do. Maybe it's just, he's just going to add more stratagems for recon, things like anti-recon. Yeah, so like stealthing, you know, camouflage techs, stealth, radar, you know, all this kind of stuff. That would be amazing. Being able to have radar, you know, that can detect stuff over an area, especially aircraft, to help in aircraft, stealth aircraft. You're starting to get the idea what he's talking about with this. I think this is going to be great. Guerrilla warfare, that's another really, really interesting idea. We've already got some stratagems that kind of cover that, but they're not very, you know, they're quite basic. So you've got call to rebellion, that kind of thing. But I think this, you know, I don't know what he's planning with this. Maybe it will work in the same way that irregulars work in the John Tiller games. So they interrupt enemies' movement. So, like, for example, in John Tiller's Modern Campaigns games, when you've got guerrillas, what happens is, let's say your troops are in strategic moves, so they're in line formation. All the infantry are packed up into their trucks and they're driving along roads. When you bump into one of these invisible units, it stops them. So they're like, okay, they suddenly lose all their action points because they've been hit by landmines and, you know, they've been attacked by guerrillas who then fade into the distance, you know, into the So that was really cool. I really like that. It gives the player some extra little tools to kind of interrupt enemy military formations whilst they're moving around in their territory, stopping them getting, you know, supplies to the front, that kind of thing. Maybe damaging logistics, damaging roads. It could be really cool. Alright, general diversity. For the sake of replayability, I want each new game to have some unique surprises in. For example, techs, models, miners, stratagems, cultures and more. This doesn't require much explanation. I don't really know exactly what he's planning, but having unique, you know, maybe some procedurally generated stuff. So, you know, individual techs. Maybe you could tie this into the new game modes. So, for example, or, you know, for the new victory conditions, you could have like a... Shadow Empire's kind of got a technological victory at the moment, which is the nuclear weapons, ICBMs, right? I've never actually used them. In the thousands of hours I've played, I've never got that far. I usually win long before that. But ICBMs are kind of intended to be the, you know, the end game thing, where once you've researched them, you just start nuking your enemy cities and that's it. That needs some work, by the way. I think having anti-nukes would be nice, like you get in Civilization, to help counter that, so that games can go on a bit longer without just becoming a nuclear war. So that's one thing. But yeah, maybe having, you know, like a unique tech that you can research in order to win the game. So if you want to go for a technological victory, you know, models that are specifically dependent upon certain gameplay styles or for factions. So if we've got this unique military thing, maybe you can get unique models. So like, you know, maybe animal cavalry, like horse cavalry, or, you know, some kind of alien kind of cavalry. Miners, you know, different miner factions, stratagems for all of these things, cultures and more. Okay, right. Militaria AI. Aiming towards having a new extra optional AI with many improvements, including more personality and long-term strategies, and with more interesting interactions concerning spying and diplomatics. This could be part of a core update to be determined. So, I agree that this probably could be a core update. You know, I don't like the idea of paying for better AI, but different AI, I guess. Yeah, look, he's saying new extra optional AI. Okay. I think providing that it was tied into the content of the DLC, then I'd be fine with paying for that. I mean, look, I'm going to pay for it anyway. I'm just playing devil's advocate because I know a lot of people, particularly in today's climate where the economy's just bad and everything's so expensive, I understand why people might feel a little bit like, look, you know, I think AI should be core update. However, that's for Vic to decide. And yeah, I mean, new AI, I think this is all tying together, right? So this new general diversity for different kinds of unique militaries, having different AIs for them, I think that's great. This is all cool stuff. Tech level 0. This would provide a much different gameplay experience, as you would be much more of a free folk warlord than an actual nation. I like the idea of this. This sounds like a new gameplay style that would be really, really interesting. You know, really scraping along, having to trade with people. Why not? I mean, it worked with the pirates in Distant Worlds universe. That was a brilliant addition to the game. And I think that something like that would be fantastic. So following this, we've got Core Engine Work 1.4x, then Workname Gold version, Core Engine 1.5. I'm guessing that this is going to be like, you know, just tying everything together, okay? I don't know what's going to be in that. But look, he's already got Core Engine Work for 1.4, so he's got something for 1.5, and then we've got Workname Starfire, and Vic's already kind of hinted. I don't think this is secret now, that he has basically, yeah, in fact he said it on Twitter, so I can say it. He is planning, I think, for the game eventually to go into the stars. So you know, he'd like it so that you could, I don't know whether it's going to be space combat or whether it's going to be that you invade other planets, but that's going to be, you know, that's way in the future. Look, this is years of work. I think, you know, this is years of work, but you know, and I won't say any more on this because I'm just guessing, and I'm only going on basically just a couple of things that Vic has said on various forums. But yeah, he's eventually wanting to take Shadow Empire off planet, and I think that would be fantastic stuff. Okay, this video has gone long enough. I hope you're excited for this this plan. Bearing in mind, again, the disclaimer that this is a plan and not a promise, so all of this is subject to change. I think we're already seeing a lot of the changes that are coming in here, so I don't think we're going to have to wait for too long for, you know, this core engine work to be kind of coming in. But I think, you know, this is way in the future. So I'm really excited for this. It's really, really good of Vic to put this out, because I think after the, you know, mixed reaction to Oceania. I think that this was important for him to kind of give us an idea of what it is that he's planning for the game. I'm hoping that he does put in naval units. Despite me being relatively ambivalent about it, I do think that, like, you know, again, when I was talking to Daz Tactic, he was saying he really wants this in. And I know a lot of people really want this in as well. And you know what? If he puts in naval units the players can control, that adds something to the game itself. That's not just pushing around more counters, you know, on the sea. That's actually doing something that's interesting and that works with the maritime trading house system that he's brought in, which I really like. Then I think that could be a really, really cool thing. So yeah, added AI air rework is something I'm really, you know, like just seeing the AI use air forces more often and having a really, really strong air war would drastically change the game more than naval stuff, in my opinion. But, you know, maybe if you could have carriers and you fight an air war off carriers. I mean, look, man, this game is getting to the point where the scope is becoming something like, you know, Hearts of Iron, but bigger even. I mean, this is starting to get towards like Paradox Grand Strategy levels of content, except it's all way better than their crappy combat system. This is like this is going to be the best game ever. So if it can get all this stuff in, and it's all good, and it's all tight, that is the thing. I want it to be tight, okay? Adding more stuff is great, but so many developers do this, and they don't tie it into the core gameplay enough. And sometimes that can, you know, we've seen this with games like Endless Space, where they, you know, Endless Space 2, where they added stuff at the end and it just didn't fit with the rest of the game and people hated it. So I think that, you know, you've got to be careful to tie it all in carefully. But out of all the developers that I know, I trust Victor to be able to do this. All right, folks, I'm going to end it there. I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know what you think about it in the comments section. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. It really, really helps the channel, and you get to see more Shadow Empire content. I've got at least 3 games of Shadow Empire on the go at the moment. One of them is kind of a bit fallow at the moment, but I do intend to go back and finish it. That's the Ice Planet game. We've got an Oceania DLC game going on at the moment, where I'm playing as an island, you know, on a Thalassa class planet with loads of little islands, and it's a long game, but man, it's really good. Very, very much delving into the economic and industrial side of things. I'll put a link up to those in the end. You know, the end tiles, so that if you want to check out those, you're very welcome to. I'd appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next episode, guys, or I'll catch you in the next series. Take care.